works. And if you're in need of an easy gift that doesn't take a lot of money, doesn't take a lot of time, but you need something quick for Christmas or birthday, I have just the thing for you. A nice elegant sign. It has a little walnut trim on the outside. It took me about an hour to make. It takes longer to actually have the spray lacquer dry than to actually make the project itself. So if you want to see how I did this, stick with me and I'll show you how. I made this sign out of oak and walnut trim. The first thing I was doing here was cutting a piece of oak scrap that I had laying around. It was rounded off on the edges, so I had to square it all off. Now every sign will be different sizes and shading on the font you want to add to it. This worked for the font that I had printed out. Next I did my zero clearance insert to add the trim, or to cut the trim for the outside. I have a video of my DIY micro jig there. If you're interested, check it out. I first cut a notch in the walnut to the exact size that I needed for the long pieces. I cut 3 of these, and then I cut them down to size for the piece of wood that I had. Here I'm showing you how I got all the same width. I just up a small piece next to it with the saw turned off and kind of just eyeballed it. If one piece was thicker than the other, you could always sand it down, but I got pretty lucky. Next I was using the transfer technique. Jay Bates has done this before. Thing you need is you can make a text box on Microsoft Word, and you can flip it on your document and print it out. You need to print it out on a laser printer. You can see there, once I flipped it around and holding it up against the light, then it would read the right way. Then you just tape it down so that it doesn't shift around. Get a wood burning pen with a flat attachment and take some time and go over it. And once the ink heats up, it will transfer onto the wood. Using oak, had a little bit more grain, was a little bit more difficult to transfer the ink. You can use pine. It is a nice smooth wood, transfers over pretty easily, and it's transferred over. It's pretty simple. You learn as you go. Next step, I was gluing the walnut trim onto the board. I just put some glue down, smoothed it around with my finger. Nice tool to have around the shop. And then I just stuck them in place. I then clamped them together. I wanted to get one on the short side and 2 on the longer sides. I did have a little gap in the middle, so I ended up adding a 3rd clamp. Like I said before, it took longer for it to dry than it did to actually make the project. So I let this actually sit overnight. You could probably just let it sit an hour, if that. Or if you wanted to add some pin nails or nail it to secure it, you could also do that, depending on what look you wanted. So the next day I took off the clamps and took some 120 grit sandpaper and sanded down the edges to make sure everything was flush. Whenever you do this, just make sure you don't sand off any of the letters or images that you transfer over. Then you'd have to start all over. Reading about the quote on the front, in 5 years and counting. I recently just celebrated my 5th wedding anniversary with my wonderful wife. So this is a nice little project that you can earn some bonus points with, and hopefully she'll like it. All I had to do was add some spray lacquer. I put 2 coats on it. Here I'm spinning it around on a box with wax paper so it didn't get all over the place. And just let it dry. So in the meantime, I want to thank you for taking the time to watch my video. I do plan on having more videos come out, hopefully more often. If you could like and subscribe, I'd really appreciate it. And if you want to share it, that would be cool too. So if you have a comment for me, leave it down below. If you have any ideas to get bonus points, I'm always looking for ideas. Thank you for watching, and let's see how long it takes for her to notice. Take care.